I want to talk about something I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. And I should warn you up front that the more I tell you about it, the worse it gets. This is a Dutch family in 1694. Nice painting. Mom, dad, 2 kids, summer house, very cozy. What I want you to notice is the plant on the left. That is a pineapple. The lady in the middle, Agnetha Block, she grew it. And the reason she had a guy paint a portrait of her entire family standing next to it is because growing a pineapple in 17th century Holland was approximately as impressive as putting a man on the moon. This is a painting of King Charles II of England. He's being given a pineapple. The pineapple gets its own painting. Multiple paintings, actually. There are at least 4 versions of this by different artists, all of them basically the pineapple's headshots. Once you start looking, they're everywhere. Pineapple, pineapple, pineapple. There is a roughly 200-year period where pineapples in European paintings function less like fruit and more like the artist saying, yes, this person is rich, in case you were wondering. And then there's this. This is a 45-foot stone pineapple in Scotland on top of a building. A man built it on purpose. We will get back to him. Okay, setup. This pineapple costs £1.50. You can buy this pineapple at any supermarket in the United Kingdom. It is genuinely difficult to construct a scenario in which this pineapple ruins your day. In 1770, the same fruit cost approximately £8,000 for one. Now, I had assumed when I started reading about this that the answer was, rich people are weird. They paid $8,000 for a fruit. Fine. End of story. That is not the end of the story. That is barely the beginning of the story. Because most of the people who paid for one of these didn't actually eat it. They rented it. Quick origin story, because you need it. 1493, Christopher Columbus, second voyage. His sailors land in what's now Guadeloupe, and they find the pineapple, which is, and I'm going to ask you to take this seriously, the first sweet fruit any of these people have ever encountered. European fruit at this point is like a tart apple, a bitter quince, maybe a fig if you're south enough. They taste a pineapple, they have a religious experience, and they bring some back to Spain. And from this point, for the next 200 years, the pineapple in Europe is something kings receive, not something kings grow, because nobody can grow it. The plant is from Brazil. The climate in Northern Europe is, famously, not Brazil. Then this happens. King Charles II, England, 1670s. According to this painting, and I want to flag that the painting is basically propaganda, his royal gardener has just grown the first English pineapple at a country house called Dorney Court. Whether or not Rose actually pulled it off, somebody figures it out in the early 1700s. And the technique they use, I cannot stress this enough, is insane. You build a glass house. You heat it from below with composting horse manure. Tons of it, year-round. And here's the part that broke me. You need a stable just to keep one fruit warm. The reason a pineapple cost £8,000 is because behind every pineapple is a horse. I'm going to keep talking, but I want you to hold on to that. So, here is England's first really successful pineapple, around 1714, in a hothouse in Richmond, owned by a man called Sir Matthew Decker. The fruit is the size of a small melon. It got its own oil painting, which now hangs in the Fitzwilliam Museum. So if you ever want to go look at the most expensive piece of fruit in art history, that's where it is. Okay, now we get to the actually unhinged part. Once people in England can grow pineapples, which, let me remind you, is roughly the cost of a small carriage per fruit, a market emerges. And the market is bizarre. Confectioners, basically high-end Mayfair pastry shops, start renting them out. You take it home, you put it on your dinner table for your guests to admire, you bring it back the next morning, the confectioner reshelves it. And here's the rule. Do not touch the pineapple. Do not eat the pineapple. The pineapple is not for eating. The pineapple is for proving that you are the kind of person who could, theoretically, eat a pineapple, which is an entire economy of people pretending to almost eat the same piece of fruit. After about a week of being passed around dinner parties, the fruit starts to go soft. The confectioner polishes the soft spots. After 2 weeks, it's actively rotting. At which point, and this is my favorite detail, they sell it cheap to a kitchen, and somebody who couldn't afford a single bite of this fruit at full price finally gets to eat it. Black, half-rotted, basically compost. I find this genuinely beautiful in a way I cannot fully articulate. Anyway, once you can afford to rent the fruit, the next move is to put it on everything you own. Pineapple teapots, pineapple salt cellars, pineapple bedposts, pineapple staircases, pineapple gateposts. By the middle of the 1700s, you cannot walk through a wealthy English house without something pineapple-shaped staring at you. Most of those finials are still standing. They're on gateposts and stair posts and pub signs and church steeples across Britain right now. We just stopped noticing. There's a folk story you'll see in tourist guidebooks, that the pineapple meant welcome, that sailors used to put one on their gatepost when they came back from the Caribbean. Honestly, that origin story is probably partly invented later. But by the late 1700s, the symbolism is real. A pineapple on the table doesn't just mean I'm rich. It means I'm so rich, I can put a fortune on the table and not eat it. Which, to be clear, is the most British sentence I have ever said. Okay, we've covered the fruit, the rental economy, the architectural takeover. You'd think we were done. We are not done. Because there is one more guy I need you to know about. John Murray, 4th Earl of Dunmore, Scottish aristocrat. In 1761, he commissions a small summerhouse on his estate near Stirling, 2 stories, stone, restrained, boring. Then he gets sent to America to govern the colony of Virginia. And in Virginia, he sees the sailor tradition with his own eyes. Captains coming home from the Caribbean, putting pineapples on their gateposts. I'm back. Welcome. Then the American Revolution kicks off, and Dunmore tries to put it down by, and I want to be careful here because this is a real and serious thing, by issuing a proclamation that frees enslaved people who are willing to fight against the colonists. It's not a moral act. It's a tactical move. He loses anyway, and in 1776, he sails home to Scotland with his career in pieces. And what does a man do when he has just lost a war, a colony, and his entire reputation? Apparently, and I am not making this up, he goes home and he builds the largest stone pineapple in human history on top of his garden wall as a summer house, 45 feet tall. Each individual stone leaf is drained so water doesn't pool and crack the masonry. The chimneys for the heating system below, for the pineapple-growing hothouse on the ground floor, are disguised as Grecian urns built into the wall. Heated, of course, by horse manure. Because at this point in the story, everything is heated by horse manure. It is, in my view, the single most aggressive piece of architecture in the British Isles. A monument to a man who lost America saying, I am still rich. I am still important. Look at my fruit. You can, by the way, rent it today through the Landmark Trust, which is the most fitting possible ending. Quick wrap. The bubble breaks in the 1820s. Steamships start crossing the Atlantic in weeks instead of months. Fresh pineapples land in London markets at prices ordinary people can pay. The Azores starts commercial cultivation. James Dole arrives in Hawaii in 1899 and builds a cannery. Within 20 years, canned pineapple is in every grocer in Britain. Nobody rents one. Not because it's banned, just because nobody's impressed. And here's the part that keeps me up. The pineapples in the supermarket right now are the same fruit. Literally the same plant. Nothing about the pineapple changed. The thing that changed was what we agreed it was worth. Which, if you think about it long enough, is almost every status symbol that's ever existed. We agree something is precious. We build whole economies around it. We carve it into our furniture and our gateposts. And then one day we just quietly stop and we move on to the next thing. Anyway, that's why I cannot stop thinking about the British pineapple economy. Sorry, now you have to think about it too.